At the core of every framework is the concept of patterns or architectural patterns. Patterns are simply abstract ways to organize your programming. One of the most basic patterns that's used by virtually every framework that matters is what's called the MVC pattern. MVC stands for Model View Controller, and this pattern represents the concept of breaking down your application into three coherent parts: the model, which is the data layer, the view, which is the user interface layer, and the controller, which is going to mediate user interactions and create updates to the model. So to break down an interaction of the MVC pattern in a framework, it will go something like this. At the view layer, you're going to have the user interface. Typically in a web-based application, this is going to result in HTML or HTML5. The user interface is the view layer, and when the user interacts with it, say they click on a button to add an item to the shopping cart, this will then send the input to the controller, either through a JavaScript handler or possibly through submitting a form or sending it to a URL. If necessary, the controller will update the model. It'll notify the model of the changes, and this can then update it. In our shopping cart example, the controller would essentially add an item to the shopping cart data in the session. The view can then go back and query the model data if it wants to display it. For example, show the user what's in their shopping cart. Notice that the pattern doesn't dictate how this is done. Each framework can do it however it wants to. If you aren't using a framework, you can see how it would be tempting to do this all in a single page. The PHP frameworks we'll be looking at all rely on the Model View Controller or MVC pattern for their code organization. Using this pattern, they can break our applications up into nice, cohesive parts. The model layer will handle the data, the view layer is going to generate the user interface, and the controller is going to handle the interactions. So you can see why we call the MVC the most valuable pattern.